Yes, got the new Kindling Cracker in the mail. Made in Australia. Now we can split some wood. How about that? This is the extra large. This is the bigger one. All right, so I'm driving down the road and I need a couple logs to split wood on. And this tree here fell across the road and they just pushed it over to the side. And I believe it's an oak tree. I can see the dead branches wilting over there. And it looks like a type of a red oak. But it's got poison ivy. This is all poison ivy on it. And I'd like to get a log that's 16 inches across, but this is only 12. So, and I could get 16 if I work in the poison ivy, but I'm not going to. So I'm just going to try to cut here. Maybe I can get something out of this. Let's see how tall we want this. I got to be able to lift it. That's another problem. Let's go with this.
Car.
Yeah, that definitely looks like red oak now. It's a little bit more than 12. Let's try to get a log out of this here. This sticking poison ivy though. But it's definitely red oak. Look how pretty that is. This is what I don't want to mess with, which I've probably already touched. There's a nice knot right here, which will get it. Let's go 22 inches. That should be tall enough.
Watch your butt. Watch it again. Another car. Get out of the way.
All right, I cut out a nice chunk. These stinking cars are coming past here like it's a stinking highway, and they're not even moving over. They're literally whacking this poison ivy as they're coming past. They won't even move over. But I think I got another car coming now. Yeah, it's like non-stop cars. Years ago, you could walk this whole road 10 miles and not see a car. Now all of a sudden, everybody's moving out here. You can't even get on the side road. But I cut a big chunk out of here. Of course, I had to pull the poison ivy off it, but I rolled it over to that side of the road. We're gonna go get the truck and try to not get hit and load it, but I think I'm gonna take these two pieces too. All right. Well, I got the log home. Boy, that was a chore trying to get that into the truck. It was so big. That piece was on top. I couldn't lift it. I could not get that into the truck. It's like 2 foot long, and I think it's like 14-inch in diameter red oak. I couldn't lift it. On the side of the road, I had to make another cut real quick, and the saw blade went dull on me, the chain on the chainsaw, and look, I just butchered this darn thing. So I'm going to rig something and try to get that flat. You can see it's way off. It's so bad right now, but it's still going to be tall enough, and you can see the remnants of the poison ivy vines that were on it. So I got to get it flat, and then I'm going to strip the bark off of it, and it'll dry nice. I mean, that thing is solid, man. Now, here's my theory. To get this, look how off that is. It's terrible. When you want to flatten out a stump, the way most people do it is to make a jig, and then they get a router on a jig, and they slide a router across the top on you make a level jig, then you put your router on top of it in a sliding track, and you move your router back and forth, and it'll route it and level it out. But I don't have a router. So what I've come up with is, instead of trying to level it from the ground, I'm going to assume that my garage floor is kind of level, it's probably not perfect, but I'm going to level from the sky, from the top. So I just tied a piece of string, and I just got a chisel, I just got a file hanging on it because it had a hole in the handle, and the metal's kind of heavy. And then right here, I just got a slip knot, and I'm just going to slide this up. I'm just going to slide this slip knot up and up and up to where I get the edge of this file to hang without swinging right where I want it to. So let's try that. So let's start with the lowest side. This thing is so stinking heavy. It's crazy. So this is the lowest side right here. Man, that is way off. And I want to start the chainsaw a little bit further down than that, so it actually bites into something. So if that just hangs normal, once it stops swinging and I don't hit it, I'm just going to make a line. All the way around this sucker. Okay, see how that worked? There's the low spot. And then, man, when you come around here, look how off it is. Look how much I got to cut off back here. So my theory is, if the floor is kind of level and I'm doing it, hanging it from the top, that's got to be a level line. So now I'm just going to turn it on its side and try to keep the chainsaw right on that line. Now, when you look at it, it may not look like it's it may look like it's crooked or something because it's got a knot on this part of the log, but I actually wanted that. I wanted it because if it had a knot in it, it's harder for it to split. So if you hit it with an axe or something, it's less likely to come apart if the whole center of it is a big knot. So I specifically cut out a section of this oak tree that had the biggest knot in it. But my theory kind of worked. I mean, it's a little tiny bit off, but that might be the garage. Man, not bad. Let's check this way. A little bit off that way. But that's, I mean, just to have something to say. Now, this is what it's for. It's for this. It's for the cracker. The Kindling Cracker. That's why I bought that. That's why I got that log. I'm going to put 4 lag bolts in here to hold this on. And this is perfect. This is perfectly sized for this. That's going to work out good. Now I got to strip the bark off it so it don't rot. All right, so I'll show you what I'm hitting. So if you look at the way the tree is made here, you got your bark, and then you got this outer layer right here. So the bark and then this outer layer is what I'm trying to take off. And you can see how I'm trying to keep it at the edge of this lighter color right here. So this darker tan and the bark's coming off all the way around. And it's going to take a while, especially to try to get it off around that knot. So I already got most of the bark off just using the hammer and chisel, but now I'm at the knot. And if I can move this darn thing, you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's waves in the wood and rolls where this knot is, and I can't just hit the chisel straight down because it's digging into the actual wood. So I'm kind of having to do it by hand and just get the chisel. I can't even do it with one hand, but I'm kind of resorting to having to do this real slow. See, just to find where the wood is. Like all this, I could tell like this right here has got to come off. This got to get shaved right here. You can see the knot of it right there. So I can't just hit it with a hammer anymore and just peel it straight down because of all this curve around this knot. Look at the pile here. This probably took me, I've probably been out here for a couple hours doing this actually. It was taking so long I stopped the camera because, well, first it'd be boring watching me just hit this for so long, but we'll come back to it. Almost done. Just a little bit left. And this is kind of all by hand, and what I'm going to have to do is get a wire brush. All right, here's the stump after I finished sanding it. I got it pretty good. I mean, it's really smooth. And I didn't even take it down with really fine sandpaper. It's pretty rough sandpaper, but the wood is kind of wet and new, so it really sanded pretty nice. But you can see all the waves in the wood here at the knot. I cleaned them out pretty good. I don't know. I'll see when I wipe it off and clean it up to see what it looks like. But I've ran into a big problem. Something I didn't think about, which I should have thought instantly. I got a pretty big log here, stump, and the idea is to take my kindling cracker, twist it to find it mounted on there in a perfect spot, so I can stand on this thing and chop wood. Now, this thing is up to my stomach, my belly button right here, this high. And when you get a piece of wood to split, if you actually want to split it, you can see what I'm doing here. When you set this piece of wood on here, now you're actually hammering from above your head to about, I don't know, where your neck is. So you're not hitting down. You know, you're not hitting down. So I think it's too high. So I got my crate here, and I put this crate next to it with the cracker here. And now, when you set a piece of wood on, the piece of wood is at my belly button. So that stump is probably twice as tall as it needs to be to mount that cracker on top of it, the splitter. So what I think I'm going to do, I don't want to cut it completely in half. So what I think I'm going to do is probably take off like 6 inches off of this. It'll be a little higher than this, but if I take like 6 inches off of this thing around. Now, since I leveled the top of this, all I have to do is draw a line down, let's say 6 inches, and I'll mark a line 6 inches all the way around this thing, and I'll lay it over and get the chainsaw again and try to make the chainsaw go as straight as possible, make such a straight cut across this. But it's going to be harder because the log's getting wider as it gets near the bottom, and my chainsaw is only 16 inches wide, so I don't think my chainsaw blade's going to be able to go straight through. But we'll see. But yeah, something I didn't think about is how tall this is. This thing is really tall, and you want to hit with your hammer low. You don't want to have to like lift your hand up and be smacking like this. It's kind of stupid. So that looks fine. And you're like, oh yeah, but then as soon as you get a piece of wood, remember the wood starts up that tall. So now it's up to my neck. So regular piece of wood on that high, I'll be hitting from above my head to my neck. So no good. So I definitely got to take some off of that stump. Dang it. I kind of wanted to keep it like that, but no good. Okay, so what I did is I measured 6 inches down from the top because the top's level. And I just marked 6 inches, put the strap around, and drew a line all the way around it. And now I'm going to lay it down and actually try to cut that, because I think that should be a better height to smack the logs. So let's try that. Not too bad. So you can see the difference from the sander. These are all the chainsaw marks going through the log. This side I sanded already. It's taking a while because it's kind of wet still when I'm doing this, but I'm trying to get all this out. Now I'm just going to mark where the bolts go. I bought some lag bolts to put here to hold it down onto the log so it don't bounce around. So I'm going to pre-drill some holes where I think this should go, so it's on here all the way around.
Okay, so there's the holes. Let's see. Look at that moisture coming out of that log. Okay, now it'll be easier for those bolts to go down.
Just put some of this on it. This is teak oil. I use this for the outdoor furniture, and I want to put some kind of coating on it. I would love to put beeswax, melt beeswax on here to help it, but let's just, this is what I got. We always got to just use what you got. So let's put some of this on and see what color this log really is. Let's see what a red oak log looks like here. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. It's got a lot of dust on it from all the sanding. So we're going to get that off. Look at this thing. Oh my, this is $1 million log right here. Man, this is some farm to table stuff. And just think, a week ago, this poor tree fell down, was snapped off in a storm. And now it's going to live forever. Well, it would have lived forever in the woods if it wouldn't have fell. Man, is that nice or what? I started off with a rougher grain sandpaper. Then of course I went to a finer one just for the top, not so much for the bottom. I did it really light on the sides, and the bottom I'm not too worried about because I think it's going to, I still want to think about some sort of legs or something to put this on so it's not sitting on the dirt and absorbing moisture. I'm going to show you here. I'm going to show you in a minute. Let's put something on the bottom here. Let's just pour some on the bottom. Look how rough that bottom is. I didn't do any sanding or anything to it. Nothing to the bottom. Yeah, the rag's not even going to slide on it. It's going to be interesting to see what this teak oil does to this wood over time. How it's going to make the color change with this, because it's not really a stain. Oil. And what's interesting on this log is where the, I'm going to show you where the poison ivy was. Right here. This dark strip is where the poison ivy was growing up the log. So it actually does something to the wood of the tree. It was sucking the moisture out to the side, or taking something from the tree for sure. All right, here she is, the finished product. Look at that. Look how pretty that wood is. Got a nice stand to split the wood on. And I'm glad I cut it off now. I'm glad I took that off here, because it was kind of high. This picture was this much higher. Nice. And here's all the pieces came off of it. All right. Looks good. And there's my other logs. And I got to find something to do with that.